Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. I have another fabulous guest with me today. I have Jin Hong with me, and we are going to dive into the various levels of Tantra and how we can use it to support ourselves through healing and intimacy, which is so important. Like that is what we're here for, is healing and intimacy to really connect with ourselves and with another. So we're going to dive into that. Jin Hong, welcome. It is so lovely to have you. She is also a somatic healing and intimacy coach and a fellow VITA sex love relationship coach. So welcome.
So good to be here. Hi, Kimberly.
Hello, hello. I'm going to let you introduce yourself, tell the world here, whoever's listening, more about you. Who is Jin? If you're listening.
Oh, yes. So I'm Jane. I grew up in China. I've been living in the States in the last 18 years. I came from a corporate world, uh, you know, business paths, and then I turned to be an intimacy and somatic healing coach. Now, it was quite a personal transformation on my side, coming from the
Yeah.
corporate world, and now to be doing this thing that I feel so passionate and can't stop talking about. So right now, I'm really supporting people who are like me and resonated with my transformation, my stories, really get on the personal journey to connect with your deeper consciousness and have much juicier and great relationship and intimacy.
Oh, I love this. I love this. I'd love to dive a little bit more into your personal story if you'd like to. Does that feel
Yeah,
aligned?
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell us what was the story like? How, did you come into Tantra and
Mhm.
becoming a somatic intimacy coach and doing this work? Tell us, fill us all in.
Okay, I'll try to summarize like a decade story into a few
Yes,
sentences.
you
Okay.
got it.
After I finished my MBA, the graduate school, and I started working in New York City. That's where I'm based right now. And after about a decade, I was really focusing on achieving, the whatever the corporate ladder will provide, right? Keep going. And meanwhile, I find I got more and more limited and lost in my personal connection, especially in dating and relationships. And now I know I never really spent much time to study and practice it, right? In school,
Mm,
probably like a lot of people. And then after a really devastating breakup about a
mm,
decade ago, and I was serious diving into my personal growth journey, especially in the non-talk based, non-lecture based way, because I have done a
mm,
lot, for work and for my other personal growth before. And I find like, wow, that didn't really touch my relationship. And why? I couldn't find the answer until I got on the journey about a decade ago to connect with my body, connect with my
mm,
sexuality, and really dive deep and take responsibility for my own fulfillment and pleasure. And at first, that really was just for me, right? Because
yeah.
at that time, I feel broken. I feel like, what's wrong with me, right? How I attract such kind of person, right? While being
Mhm,
kind and really want to have a good relationship. And then turns out I didn't know how much trauma and repressed emotions has affected me and
mm,
lived in my body. And then only until I have done the work I saw another side, a different part of me can show up and freely and has its own voice and really share my desires and pleasure and own my pleasure. And that really changed my inner connection profoundly and impacted anyone I am interacting with. Yeah.
mhm,
And
mm.
then later it involved like I find my passion in doing this, in supporting other people, and then have done a lot of professional trainings as well, and then become a coach.
I love it. I love it. I can relate to so many pieces of it, especially, the part of did so much work before, but it was talk, right?
Mm-hmm.
Talk therapy, talk growth, listening to lectures, reading books, even seeing a therapist. But it's very different when it's talk. And it doesn't seem to get through to some of the core traumas that we're holding in our own bodies. And it is when we go into the body work, into the somatics, into the embodiment, start to actually learn, what anger feels like in our body, what grief feels like in our body, what
Mhm.
fear feels like in our body, what rage feels like in our body, and start to,
Mhm.
like you said, remove these from our body because we shouldn't be holding on to them. When we're holding on to them and repressing our emotions or stuffing them down, it creates a very toxic body.
Yeah.
Creates a very toxic,
Yeah.
way that we relate, way that we're triggered, the way that we are intimate with others, the way that we show up and are intimate with ourselves, the way our
Mhm.
self-talk is. There's so many pieces there. So that really resonated with me for sure.
Yeah.
And totally, yeah, we're not taught how to relate. Growing
No.
up, we don't have good role models for that. We don't have embodiment role models for that.
Yeah.
And before we know it, we get into our 20s and 30s and so forth.
Mhm.
And it's not serving us. Like, as you noticed in the corporate world, it wasn't serving you, right? It
Mm.
really wasn't fulfilling.
No, no. I would say I have deep gratitude for what has brought me, for my education
Mhm.
in the past, and for the corporate career. It certainly gave me a lot of assets, right?
Mm.
And to a certain point, it's like what you just shared, lecture-based learning, talk-based treatment or therapy, right? Absolutely has its own benefit, right? And to a certain level, right? There's a ceiling, there's a limit we reach by just connecting and leveraging our frontal cortex, right?
Mm.
And thinking brain, because it's used to, we use it to solve problems, but solve conscious issues, solve issues that are visible to us. And
Mhm.
but how on earth we can get in touch with people with things that we don't really know what's going on inside of us, right? We cannot get in touch with it, which we call it subconscious or unconscious level, right?
Mhm.
But we all know that actually control our behavior, especially in intimate connection and in relationships, right? Where we don't have agenda to follow, we don't have all the professional persona to wear. And that's where when the issues showed up, it's actually become a portal for us to heal, to integrate, and to claim our
Yes.
power.
Yes, I love that. It is a portal. Like, our grief and our pain and our heartbreak and our ruptures are literally a beautiful portal. Now, yes, it sucks. It hurts.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard. But
Yeah.
when we can connect to our body, connect to our truth, ground in our
Mm-hmm.
presence, and connect to our higher self, we can move through these portals of rupture
Yeah.
in such a more beautiful, healing way that changes our entire life. And
Entirely.
right,
Mm-hmm.
entire life. And they say your patterns, your lessons will continue showing up in your life until you, right? The same pattern will keep showing up
Mm-hmm.
until you face it.
Yeah.
Because it's like knock, 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 knock. And I remember for most of my teens, 20s, 30s, sometimes even
Yeah.
40s, I was like, I don't have time for that. Go away. No,
Yeah.
right? And we can do that for only for so long. And
Mm-hmm.
eventually it catches up to us and it's overwhelming. And you touched base on something a few moments ago about controlling our thoughts, right? Our
Mm-hmm.
own traumas and our past lived experiences. And if we're not aware and conscious
Mm-hmm.
of what is actually happening, these limiting beliefs, which are telling us that it's not safe to make money, it's not safe to be in a loving relationship, it's not safe to, be in your body. There's so many mixed messages that are there from, you name it, society,
Yeah.
life, growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Could be from mean girls in school or past mean, hurtful comments from a partner or something. It could be anything.
Yeah.
But those limiting beliefs actually start to grow and they're in there, they're in the back. And we're not conscious of even how they're playing a story in our current lives, but
Mm-hmm.
they are until we actually just take a
Mm-hmm.
look at them.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it has become such a transformation for me is to be able to observe my thought and
Mm,
listen to my body, right? And so that I can uncouple the voice from the external resources from how I really feel and what's my truth,
mm,
right? And I truly believe the truth is living single one of us. We have our
Yeah.
voice, we have our desire, and we have the way that we feel nourished and fulfilled and pleasant, right? It's a matter of there's so many other voices from family, from external pressure, from peers, and from the social conditionings wrapped around, so we disconnect with our true voice, and we
Mm.
feel like we need to perform and add a lot of layers on top of it, and everything together weight us down and limit us, especially, and that limitations show up in relationships, in intimacy.
Oh my gosh, you
Yeah.
worded that so beautifully. Yes. And that's what shows up not only just in relationships and intimacy, in our parenting, in the way we show up
Yep.
at work, in the way we show up at the grocery store, in the way that we try and relax. I'm using air quotes here in our
Mm-hmm.
downtime. Are we scrolling, reels
Mm-hmm.
and social media all day long just to
Mm-hmm.
numb and disconnect? Are we turning to the wine to disconnect?
Mm-hmm.
Because of all of these layers that are it's like muck, or a
Mm-hmm.
ball of yarn, right? And you have to like untangle the yarn to get to the
Yeah.
center because that is where you live. The center is you, your truth,
Mm-hmm.
your purpose, your calling. It lives in your body and it lives in
Yeah.
every single person's body, just like you were saying. Everyone has their
Yeah.
inner truth, but
Yes.
we're not taught how to connect with it. And to get there, we have to untangle all of the conditioning and muck and stories and trauma and relationship woes and heartbreak. And that might sound
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of work, but it's actually, I have found the journey to be amazing, actually, like extremely fulfilling and satisfying
Yeah.
and pleasurable, even in the unpleasurable parts, because I know there's transformation happening. I know there's
Mm-hmm.
digestion. I know I'm disentangling. I know I'm healing. I know
Mm-hmm.
I'm also home in my truth in that portal, like you were talking about earlier, like I'm
Mm-hmm.
really connected to body and I can connect to that truth. And that is what Tantra has allowed me to touch, that piece of my soul, my
Yeah.
core of who I am. Sounds
Yeah.
like it's the
That's
same for you.
beautiful. It's like a treasure hunting, right? We
Yes.
keep finding our own treasure. Yeah, in a way, like we know it will not leave us, right?
Yeah.
And the safety, the pleasure, and also the trust, right? Is coming from within. And then we can share with people who like to connect, like to share with. It's
Hmm.
not the other way around. So what I see when I used to be one of them as well, I was looking for techniques, looking for skills, how to test, how to text people, how to talk, right? How to present. Those are has its place, but more importantly and also effectively is where is my inner trust and safety
Mm.
and centeredness are coming from. Once I connect with that source, it will not leave me. It will not go away.
Yes. What I like to
Yeah.
say is it creates this unshakable trust in us
Mm-hmm.
that no matter what happens in the world, I can lock in and trust that I've got this because I can
Yeah.
feel it in my body that
Mm-hmm.
no matter what, I will figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
There's this deep trust in there. I
Mm-hmm.
totally, totally agree with that. And it's beautiful. So we were going to break down, a lot of people come to Tantra or Google Tantra. I'm using air quotes again, and they think it's all about sex, right? They think it's all about sexual positions and all of this weird shit. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not true. So, of course, that's what we're doing in these podcast series of actually breaking down with so many different teachers and
Mm.
practitioners of what is Tantra? How does it work for you? Because it is so vast and it is so, um, everybody can take it in a little bit of a different flavor to what they
Yeah.
desire and what works for
Mm-hmm.
them. And yet we're using the same tools to go to the same ultimate places, but we all use them a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm.
So let's break down first in your words, what is Tantra to you?
Yeah. Beautiful. I view Tantra as a philosophy and practices for me to connect with my body, my mind, and my spirit.
Mm,
And what's special in Tantra is it doesn't leave anything behind. That's why I'm so attractive to Tantra practices is many of the other practices, either talk based or a lot of spiritual practices, with this that reinforce the connection, probably mostly in the upper body and above, right?
Mhm.
Think positive mindset and also meditation, which are beautiful. It's nothing wrong with that. However, what is left in many of the practices or philosophy is what's happened to our lower part. We have
Mm.
chakras, we have energies, potent energies in our lower bodies.
Mhm.
And that's where the root is, if you think about sexual energy, right? And our emotions, right? That's all in the lower part of our body in terms of the energy center or chakras.
Yeah.
And without connecting with that part of us profoundly, it's almost like building a building of high skyscraper without a good foundation,
Yes.
right? It's impossible, and also feel disconnected, like there's something is off, but I don't know
Mhm.
why, because I've supported
Mhm.
a lot of people feel like I've done enough spiritual practice and meditating a lot, but how come I still disconnect with my body, right? I had the same question until I encountered Tantra. And I know, like, oh, the beauty of Tantra is because Tantra includes everything, our bright and dark, the gift and shadow, the upper
Mm.
body and lower body.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's really the magic is.
I love that. I love that. I wrote an article.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually laying on the ground in my office a few years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I wrote an article on this because I was just like stretching. And
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden I was like, boom, big hit of
Mm-hmm.
how, if we're walking around, chest or throat up, and we are
Mm-hmm.
not connecting to our solar plexus, which is our power center, if we're not
Mm-hmm.
connecting to our sacral, which is just below, energetic womb space or womb space for
Yeah.
female identifying humans, again, that is our pelvic bowl power, innate inner wisdom, right? That we have so much power in this lower half. And then we can go down to the sexual center, like all the way down. But if we're not
Correct.
even connecting to those two right in our
Mm-hmm.
core, it's actually referring to our bellies because so many women hate their bellies and hate their stomachs and want them to be flatter and want
Mm.
them to be pulled in. And maybe they're happy with their body, but they always dislike their belly. And if
Mm.
we dislike our belly and if we are not connecting to our belly, we have cut off I'm holding my belly right now, right? Like we have cut off our most powerful, sensual, emotional, intuitive, everything. We've cut it off.
Yeah.
We're walking, talking heads. We're not actually a whole, complete human. And this goes for all
Yes.
genders. So
Yes.
yeah, it's this reconnection back into, and I loved the way that you said it's like having this really tall building, this big structure, and having this really weak, crumbly foundation.
Mm-hmm.
That is perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So,
Very
and
perfect.
really, I see Tantra as a way to be how we show up and move through life, right?
Mhm.
Because we cannot just accept the light and bright and run away from the shadow and dark, right? It's
Mhm.
really about how to integrate and how to get the magic and the power by accepting all parts of us.
Yes, nothing
Yeah.
is left behind, as you
Mm-hmm.
said.
Mm-hmm.
All of us is welcome. Our shame, our grief, our rage, whatever, all of those pieces. And when we start to open up and share these pieces that we've tucked away for a very long time, many of us, with others, we realize we're not alone. And when
No.
we realize that, we're like, oh, so then this, and this, and that belief are all false. And I've been living my life based on those beliefs.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
that is huge. Like, it's like you kind of have an eye opening of, holy shit.
Yeah.
Right. And it took me till my
Absolutely.
40s. It took me till my 40s to do
Yeah.
it. So it was a big holy shit. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and I always share with just so you know, I have supported people anywhere from their 20s to 70s, right?
Beautiful.
And I also feel so inspired by any age because I always feel like it's never too late. Because imagine, then maybe it's hard to imagine, but I mean, at least to me, I have seen this over and over. Well, a 20 something have a chat with me versus a 70 something or going to my session with me, the same thought popped up, at least at the very beginning, is, oh, it's too late to do this work.
Mm,
You know,
mm,
What did I do in my past so and so years, right? And I said, it's never too late to connect with our true essence.
I
And
believe that
what,
is what we're here for.
yeah,
We're
yeah,
here for that
exactly.
connection, that true soul, deep connection to our truth, to ourself, to our essence, to our soul,
Mm-hmm.
and then to connect to another that way and to actually allow ourselves to be seen, to be loved, to be held again in the same thing with all of us,
Yeah.
right? Not leaving a single part of us behind, to be
Mm-hmm.
loved and held in that way.
Mm-hmm.
I actually believe is the ultimate, at least for me, life calling of that's what we're here for, not the other stuff. The other stuff isn't
Yeah.
important. This
Yes.
and connecting with another in that way is the most important and is the most beautiful thing I've
Mm-hmm.
ever experienced.
It's heartfelt. It's a whole body felt connection
It is.
when it
It's
happens.
a it's a whole body trust, heartfelt, got this, keep like believe, trust, surrender, all of it
Mm-hmm.
because you can feel it in your body, which is
Yeah.
beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. So let's talk about the various levels of Tantra that some people do see or they think they see versus
Uh-huh.
what is actually possible.
Oh, wow. Uh, I would love to have this open conversation with you because I know how profound tantra practices. I can just scratch, not even scratching the surface, but I will share, happy to share what I have discovered and support people with. So I always say there are different gates. There are different gates to tantra, right? Maybe some people find, which is happens to a lot of people, they find, oh, tantra is about sex. It's about sexual energy or positions or skills, right? That's one gate to it. It's not wrong with it. I would say that does not describe the full power of Tantra, not even close to, right? This is a
But
very
definitely a fun
small
part to play
percent.
with.
Exactly. It's a part is eye-opening and is very grab attention, right?
Yeah.
Especially nowadays, right? We want something good for marketing, good to grab people's attention. That's great. Just know, like, it's only a small percentage of tantric practice is about sex union or sexual union, right? The sacred union between people, and it's very profound. And that's not the whole thing of it. It's tip of the iceberg, right? It's great if that's your gate. Enjoy and
Yeah.
keep exploring, because sooner or later you will find like there's more to it, right? And then I would say another gate usually happens after people explore techniques, skills, positions, right? And they find, wow, it helps me. However, I feel there's more to it. There's more things like I would love to have to build a meaningful connection, right? And it's not just about the skills and what is it. So another gate or another level in tantra practice important is to explore what the combination of love and meditative awareness can bring
Mm,
to our inner connection and can bring to a relationship, right? I would say it's not limited to intimate relationship. It's really for every people we interact with. But
yeah.
of course, your loved ones will share something special with you, right? So, and that look like is there's way more presence when
Mhm.
I'm with someone. And there's less urge to keep doing, talking. But there's a profound settlement of presence. Like, oh, I can be with myself. I can be with my feelings. I can be with what it is in front of me, with my lover, right? Without the urge or agenda to have to do something, to perform, to go somewhere, or to reach an orgasm, or to have an outcome, right? It's really the profound impact of presence and
Mm,
connection. And
yeah.
you will feel everything start flowing even beyond what kind of agenda we may have, beyond that. And that's where I really see like the presence and meditative awareness and love can bring to a relationship and with ourselves, inner connection. Yeah.
Yeah, it's some examples of what this presence, what this connection to self, connection to another, and the sexual component, if we're going to add it in there, when you bring it all together, it allows you to, at least it allows me. and maybe this, I'll speak to me because it allows me to be my full self in a way
Mhm,
that I have never probably been since I was
mhm,
about 2 or 3. Right? That is when you're the 2 or 3-year-old toddler running around going naked in the front yard in the sprinkler. And you don't care that 20,000
yeah.
people just drove by. And you're like, whatever, I'm not going to sleep and I'm not eating those peas. And you can't tell me to put back on my clothes. So there's this powerful, you see the little toddlers, the little terrible twos, right? The ones
Mhm,
where they're like, "Rah," and this is me. That is our true essence. Like we came into the world in our
mhm,
true essence.
mhm,
And to actually then come back using all of these tantric tools to who we are and to show up in a relationship as an adult without that conditioning of, hey, this is me. Do you love and accept me this way? Like showing up and being seen in this way, being loved in this
mhm,
way, feeling my full range of emotions in this way,
mhm,
and still being loved, seen, accepted, supported. And it's a both way street, right? I get to see my partner in his
mhm.
full expression and vulnerability. The vulnerability is key. Like it is so powerful, and I cannot explain how healing it is to be seen and loved and held in that way. And that is
Yeah.
something that as Tantra has allowed. And
Mhm,
it's not necessarily, oh, you both have to be into Tantra. No, like for my me and my current partner, I have been in Tantra for, 8 years or so now, playing with the
mhm,
different realms, and he's just experiencing it through me.
mhm,
So, it's still possible. It's still possible. It's like a
mhm.
year and a half of just playing and weaving and exploring, and it's still possible for one partner to do the work and to invite the other one in, which is absolutely beautiful. And I can't even put it into words how amazing and how beautiful it is. It's really difficult to put into words, but it's
Mhm.
ugh, life-changing.
Yeah. Yes. I like to use this to say the situation is one partner is inspired by another is a rising tide lifts all boats, right? And
Mm,
one person really be the example of accepting love and presence, right? And just embodied way. It's not through talking, it's not
mhm.
through thinking, it's through the embodiment. That's what really inspire another person or other group, right? The
Yeah.
embodiment inspires. Yeah.
Now I'm gonna touch base on embodiment here as a kind of like side note container because I think people who are
Uh-huh.
listening, if they haven't been in any embodiment or somatic practices, this was me way back when, right? So I'm speaking from my
Mm-hmm.
old self truth
Mm-hmm.
of embodiment. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Right? Like people
Ah.
be like, what do you feel in your body 8,
Mm-hmm.
9 years ago? And I was like, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So to the people who are, this is foreign concept. Yes, I see you, I welcome you. It was very foreign
Mm-hmm.
to me, and it was very foreign to pretty well everybody I've ever worked with before they started on this journey. I'm guessing it was the
Yeah.
same to you because then
Yeah,
it took some
absolutely.
yeah, it took some practice and some tools, and this is what we teach and work with our clients with,
Mm-hmm.
to go, okay, so what does my body want? What do I feel in my body? What do I feel like when I'm having rage? What do I feel like when I'm having anger, frustration? Like, what messages is my body telling and sharing with me? Because our bodies are always speaking to us. Even when I was
Mm-hmm.
disconnected and not listening in my 30s and my 20s and my teens, as I look back now, my body was always talking to me in
Yes.
pain, in contraction, in tension, in a lower back pain, shoulder pain, really tight pelvic floor, problems with nursing. Like my body was talking to me the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
So it just through these tools and practices through the tantric lens of learning how to reconnect to our body, we can really start learning how to listen, and that is how then we can just, the next step and the next step. And it's this beautiful path of exploring and deepening. It's a beautiful journey of
Mm-hmm.
self-awareness and self-connection. Absolutely
Mm-hmm.
beautiful. Even if we
Yeah.
just use it for that purpose.
Yeah. Absolutely. I was in the same boat, right? In the same shoes when I got started, I feel like what a buzzword, what is embodiment, right? And I also do my best because I have been in that situation before. And it's a never ending process, right? We can always expand and deepen this awareness and self connection through our bodies. So I always share with people, it's like just like going to the gym, when you work out and the next day you will feel the muscle you worked on has soreness. And now we know, we accept that soreness as a sign for growth. It's the
Mm.
same when we exercise our emotional body or connect with our feelings, with our vulnerabilities, right? With our pleasures. It's the same. May feel discomfort. It feel like awkward. It feel like strange. Like I'm not used to this. I'm clumsy at beginning, but that's all like working on your biceps and triceps the first time. And
Yeah, they hurt like crap.
your body knows. And the good news is body will really show you your progress, honestly,
Yeah,
as long as you know the soreness is a signal for your growth and you take care of
I
it.
love that.
Yeah.
I love that comparison. That is, I think, helpful because a lot of people have picked up a weight at least once in their life, right? And that first time it was like, oh my gosh, I could only do, 8 pounds if you're,
Yeah.
or 10 or 12 or whatever it
Yeah.
may be, right?
Hmm.
And it's about growing and learning and developing and learning to rebuild the connection between brain and body because it always is there. It always has been there.
Always.
We've just learned to turn it off sometime around the age of 3, 4, 5, and on
Hmm.
continuing, right? We
Hmm.
learned to turn it off because we were told what we were doing was not okay. We were shamed. We were punished. We were whatever it may have been. And
Hmm.
then, we receive outside conditioning, teasing, stuff from school in the schoolyard. Somebody hurt our feelings. Somebody hurt us. Somebody took our toy. So many different things change. And then as we
Yeah.
grow up, again, we learn how to fit in for peer pressure to fit in because if we feel like we're excluded, which is a natural sensation, we do want to feel like we belong because that is
Hmm.
part of our safety, love, and belonging that we deeply desire. So then we change to fit in. We change a little bit to people please. We start to become different so that we will be liked. And before we know it,
Hmm.
we have changed so far away from actually who we are. And this is the part
Yeah.
of coming back to who we are. And we can do
Hmm.
it through the tantric lens and using these practices and tools to
Yeah.
reconnect. It's
Yeah.
absolutely a beautiful journey.
Hmm. Yeah. I agree. Especially as an immigrant, from China
Mm.
to American, I really had a lot of, um, I would say, limiting beliefs, which supported me. I honor them back then to help me survive, to help me fit
Mhm.
in, to belong.
Absolutely.
Because, there's so much going on and everything was new, for many years until a point I really got to learn and say, I don't hate my past self, but I honor whatever brought me and helped me survive, helped me really have my feet on the ground and not just survive, but live live a decent life in a new country. And then I thank that part and also reclaim that what is even more true to me and my gift. And I
Mm.
really believe that happens to everyone, whether you grew up in your country or immigrant, or you have any other inner conflict
Yeah.
inside of you. And I would say the story is different, but the journey is shared.
Yes. Yes. And as you were sharing there about limiting beliefs, like I can remember, which, different people might have the same kind of memories, certain times in my life where I formed decisions at a young age of how
Mm,
the world was.
mm,
So, and then I continue to live like that. So I continue
mm.
to allow my 14-year-old self to make a decision, which I'll share in a moment, that I continue to live in my 20s and my
Yeah,
30s and
yeah.
beyond. And this was, after I was sexually assaulted and by my stepfather and then shared with my mother, and she believed me right away, but then she didn't within a few hours. I remember deciding when she made me confront him in the front of his truck, I remember deciding after a conversation quickly with him that I was on my own here and I was going to have to continue to
Mm,
go through the life on my own. I had nobody else to support me. So that was a limiting belief. And it felt very, very true at the time, right?
mm,
couldn't turn to my father, I couldn't turn to my mother, I couldn't turn to, my stepfather, and I felt like I was alone. So I decided that I
Mm.
was alone from here on out. And I
Mm.
think I pretty well lived the other half of my teens, my 20s and my 30s in very much a masculine, hunkered down, take care of myself. I am going to, be a very independent, strong in my masculine woman. And that is what I did. And eventually it caught up to me because it wasn't
Yeah.
serving me and it wasn't feeling good and it was
Mhm.
hurting me and my body was still screaming at me. And I was like, oh, wait, I'm not alone. That was a limiting belief that I actually chose that day. I remember picking
Mm.
it. Um, and yeah, it really did change the way that I showed up in the rest of my life until I started to do this work and see it for what it was and do the healing around the assault, around the betrayal, around other things that happened in my lifetime, around the limiting beliefs. And actually was like, oh, isn't that cute? I actually formed this opinion and this
Yeah.
decision that I've based my life on. And going into it, is it true? Is it true
Mm.
story? And it was like, no, it's not.
Mm.
So it's like, wow, all these doors just then open up for you because it's not
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. I definitely felt shared different limiting beliefs and different background, but similar journey, right?
Yeah.
And what really helped me was instead of going to blaming the past self or criticizing my past self, the event, and also was eager to get rid of that part of me, which
Mm.
really didn't work, right?
You cannot cut it off.
Until I really learned like that part existed for a reason and had
Yeah.
served me for a very, very good purpose. Until I honor that part, I love that part properly, like fully, I will not be able to detach from it,
Yeah.
in a like I would say in a fulfilled way, in a complete way, right? And
Yeah.
then until I learned it, I feel like, wow, this doesn't have to be like forceful, like aggressively working, do the inner work, but it can be soft and loving and really feel that's gentleness is so powerful. Yeah.
Filled with compassion and approval. And
Yes.
absolutely. And looking back, like, of course, that 14-year-old decided she was on her own. She was at the time, and she needed that to survive. It was like it allowed me to put my head down, work hard, move out of the
Mm,
house, go to university, create a life. Like it's what allowed me to survive. Otherwise, I
yeah.
would have been destroyed right then and there, right?
Yeah.
So those are parts, they're beautiful lessons and beautiful uncoverings. And I don't know about you, but I love uncovering limiting beliefs I have. Like when somebody goes, is that true? I'm like, my bestie sends it back and forth to me. I'm like, ooh, let's see there. Like, what's going on in there? Is there a limiting
Mm-hmm.
belief in there? Do I have a little
Mm-hmm.
false story? Am I telling myself a story? Like, I love uncovering these because I just love learning more about myself and how I work and how my traumas have affected me and how I can
Mm-hmm.
heal from them and how I can grow from them and how I can teach others to do the same. It is the most rewarding, most healing, most purposeful, I love
Mm,
it, thing that I can be
yeah.
doing.
Yeah. Especially, I would say it works for any gender, right?
Mm,
And any age. But for me, I'm also in my 40s. I feel especially sweet by going through this process is like I really can feel, wow, it preparing me so well to enter a wise woman stage, right? So
absolutely.
however people define that age, but I really feel like I'm so proud that this wisdom comes in with time. And I really get to cherish that. Yeah.
Yes. And again, it's never too late. It's never too early to start your work. It's never too late.
Yeah.
There is a beautiful life to live
Hmm.
when we can bring in the tantric lens of approval and compassion, and all parts of us are welcome, and
Hmm.
love and expansion and connection and embodiment. And it's absolutely delicious. And my desire is for as many people as possible, because I know, of course, it won't be everyone, just realistically, but for as many people as possible to feel this, to live it, to breathe it, to parent from this way, to partner from this way, to career from this way, to live in a way that is like, yes, this is aligned with my soul. And what is aligned with mine isn't going to be what's aligned with yours, but we can each learn through these tools how to connect what is true for us. And
Yeah.
that is like what you're saying. It's the same journey to our truth.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Do you want to talk a little bit about how this work allows such a deeper level of intimacy?
Oh, yeah. So we can resume where we just touched about the increased presence, right? In intimacy and being instead of doing. So one effect I've seen over and over is people really got it. What is less is more, right?
Mm,
Less doing. And but it doesn't mean like you're being there and wondering, what's going on in your mind, but really being there with your loved ones and really notice the beauty in each other and savor
mm,
the moment, savor the the breath together and the touch, even just gentle caressing, and really feel
mm.
like there's so much richness and beauty and connection and pleasure in every single interaction. Not because this
Yeah,
person, this is your lover, it's because you really see the beauty and essence in each other. And I call it that's a quality time. it's a it's a high quality time. It's 10 times higher quality than if we just screw our phone and be in the same room for a day, right? It's
yeah,
totally different. And that's
totally
deeply
different.
nourishing, deeply nourishing. Yeah.
That is a key word, deeply nourishing. Um, I was trying to describe earlier what it feels like to be seen and loved and be in presence with somebody that way. And that is it. It is so nourishing. And it has allowed me, even to this day, even like while I was sick with COVID a few weeks ago, it'll
Mm.
probably be a month by the time this airs, right? But to be held by him in presence while I was sick. Do you know how healing that was for me? Going back to being asthmatic all my life, being in the hospital, having pneumonia, bronchitis, having mean night nurses yell at me. I remember when I had croup at 3. It was so beautifully healing and nourishing just for him to be present with me and to support me while I was that sick. I was like,
Mm.
I have never, I'm almost 49, I have never been held like that being sick.
Wow.
And that was like, I cried many nights over it. It was like, this is so healing. I think I've wanted this all my life.
Mm.
I have. I've deeply yearned for it all
Yeah.
my life. And that's just
Yeah.
another way that, again, that presence and that connection and that being
Mm-hmm.
seen and loved and all of me accepted, even in my tears and my
Yeah.
cough and my, I'm so sick. And
Mm-hmm.
you sure you want to get me more soup for the 5th day in the row? And he's like, absolutely. And I'm like, okay, thank you. Right? Like,
Oh.
I've never been met that way. And it was really, really
Mm.
beautiful.
That's special. Yeah,
It is.
that's
It
very
really is.
special. And I really believe that that kind of care and love and connection, if happens to more people in the world, and that would be so much more peace. That's
Hmm.
really the world needs,
Hmm.
right?
It creates
This
big
this
healing.
connection and love. Yeah.
Having COVID created major healing in my life
Mhm.
and body. Who would have thought, that would create healing? But it did. It was beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I can also touch base on like one more thing I'm passionate
Yeah.
about also along this topic is how Tantra practices, enhance our intimacy in relationships. I would say any relationships. Um, Another factor is it brings meditative awareness, bring higher consciousness with the right practices, right, to us. That can look like, wow, we know our boundaries more clearly, and then we own our desires and boundaries and what's true to us unapologetically. And we can
Hmm.
share that with people.
Hmm.
And
Ask for
often,
what we
yeah,
need.
Exactly. Oftentimes when so because I got mistaken many times, people think I'm a dating coach, right? Which,
Mm.
it's I can see why, right? And then the people ask me like, "Oh, what's your advice for dating? How to vet people?" Right? So of course I will engage in the conversation from time to time. So I would say usually I say that, the best way to vet people is to be your true self, to speak
Mhm.
up your desire, your boundary, what's your full yes and no, so that that's the best screening tool you have. Don't have to count on fancy text or how to talk, how many dates after I can be intimate with this person or blah blah blah. No, that's all the rules disconnect with your desire, what works for you, how much connection you need, and you unapologetically want to have, right, before you're intimate with someone, right? That's the best way because when you speak up in such a way, people listen. And that's going to repel a person who are not aligned with you automatically.
Exactly. I could not agree with this anymore because, I started dating last summer, last July. I
Mhm.
put some things out on some dating apps and I was like, I have not dated in 26 years. So I don't know how this works. But I remember after a practice going, should I share what I do? Should I share who I am? And I was like, fuck this. I am being my whole damn self. And I wrote it, and my friends were like, oh, I don't know if you want to put that on there. So you're going to get a lot of different comments. I'm like, no, I'm being me. And I was in every single message response. And I dated a handful of people on single dates, very quick one-off dates. And then I met the partner that I'm with now, and we hit it off immediately. But every single message was like, I am being full out who I am. And if he doesn't like it, I might as well know now. Like, don't waste any time. Like, if I want to ask for something, if I want to message, like, you're thinking, am I texting too much? Well, who the fuck cares? Because if you really want to text that much, you might as well find somebody that's okay with you texting that much. Or if you want to, ask a deeper question or share your truth, you might as well share your truth. And if they don't like it, find out now.
Yeah.
And that, I believe, was the biggest key to me connecting with absolute soulmate who's
Mm,
absolutely perfect, which blows me
wow.
away. It was me being my full authentic
Yeah.
100%. And
Mhm.
sometimes I had to do 101% just to make sure because your brain's like, "Oh, you shouldn't say that. Oh, you shouldn't say that. Oh, it's
Yeah.
too soon to mention that."
Yeah.
No, I'm being my whole self. Nothing
Yeah.
held back.
Yeah.
And to this day, I still am. He loves it. I can still showing up being me. I can be a full out emotional mess like I was through COVID and having it in the last couple of weeks. And again, he can love and support me and see me and be present with me, with all of me, because he's seen all of me from the beginning.
Whew, bravo.
Mhm. Thank you. Took a lot of years to get there, but
Yes.
that is, it is the most fulfilling.
Yeah, that's an award, right? We can
Yeah.
pat our shoulders. Wow, you have done a great job in healing and in claiming your truth.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
if I hadn't have done my work before that, I probably wouldn't have been able to do that fully to the extent I
Mm,
did, but because I've done my own healing work for the last many years and continue to, it's allowed me. So I totally agree. You gotta connect to your full true self, and then you can live from that full true self. And
mhm.
some relationships are gonna drop off.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
think that's a big fear for some people that I don't want to do this work because what's going to happen to my marriage? And I remember that was a thought of mine way back in
Mm,
2017. But at the
mm,
time, I was like, but if I don't do the work, there isn't going to be a me. So there isn't going to be a marriage, right? Like
mhm,
it actually got down to what am I modeling for my children who were teens all at that time?
mhm,
And I had to make the choice to lean in and do the work. And you know what? Sometimes the marriages don't last. That one did not. And that wasn't because I did the work. It was because I came back to my true self, found who I was, and realized that we weren't aligned and we never
yeah.
were. Now, I do
Mm.
love my children. They're absolutely beautiful, and I love the whole life and what it has led me to there. And, you know, and there's so much more.
Yeah.
I could not have kept going the way I was going. There wouldn't have been a me
Yeah.
left.
Yeah.
It was
It's
destroying
like,
me.
yeah, it's what I heard. It's really feel remind me. It's like limiting beliefs we used to have. It served us, and we thank them. But then we really
Yeah.
and then we don't want to live within that box anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. It's time to get out of the
Yeah.
box.
Hmm.
Yeah. The box is very suffocating. It's very strangling. It's very isolating.
Yeah.
It can be really, really hard being in there. And I do believe the way out of the box is with support, right? I could not have done it without
Mm.
support. I could not have done it without sisterhood. I could not have done it
Mm.
without sister goddesses, and I couldn't have done it without my trainings with Layla Martin and Mama
Yeah.
Gina and all my trauma awareness. All of it has all made a very, very huge difference. And again, whether you're single or whether you are coupled, it does not matter. You can
Yeah.
start this work. It is never too late. It doesn't matter your gender. It doesn't matter your relationship status. It doesn't matter if you're happy or sad.
Yeah.
You can start this work and it is life
Hmm.
changing.
Yeah. And for anyone who might feel like, oh, this is so much to do, it's feel overwhelmed, I would say this. It's like again, like going to the gym. Let's start with 2 pounds and then 5 pounds and 10 pounds. And your body will pick up quicker than you think.
Mhm.
But we will start somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for those who are like, oh, but it's so big, it's so much work to do. That is also your resistance. So you can notice it. Ooh, I can feel big fears coming up to doing this work.
Hmm.
You can welcome the fears because your fears are always leading you to the next best step for you. Welcome them, thank them, see them, love them, hold compassion and approval for them, and still lean in and do the work. And just
Mm.
noticing our resistances. They're always
Yeah.
there, and they're always the strongest when we're on the right path.
Hmm.
Yeah. What else do you have going on? We're going to drop all your links in the show notes as well, Jen. But what else do you have going on? Where can people find you? Fill us in.
Oh, yeah. So I will drop my YouTube and Instagram, and that's where I update some of the especially I would call it bite-sized wisdom inspired by my clients and through my work. I find this really useful, especially answer questions from my clients. I can make a short video and share it with the public. Yeah, and also my website. So you can find me
Love
there.
it.
And I'm located in New York City. If you are in the area, like, also I host some workshops. Yeah.
Beautiful. And what do you have going on right now? How can people work with you? The workshops,
Uh,
what else?
Yes, so the public way is a workshop, and then I mostly work with people privately, like one-on-one, or with a couple is two-on-one, right? So couple together and or individuals. Yeah. And
Beautiful.
I work both online and also in person in New York.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Thank you. And probably by the time this is coming out, it's around November-ish, I'm thinking. What do I have going on? I have a couple of spots, probably about a few opened up in January is when we're looking at starting. I am kind of booked up until then, but starting in January for private or couples coaching for singles or couples. And
Hmm.
then there will be some in-person workshops and retreats coming up in 2025 that I am very excited. Not sharing all the details yet, but they will be coming up for singles and couples. And I'm excited to connect with you all.
Wow, wonderful.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I've really enjoyed connecting with you and sharing and hearing your story and, seeing all the puzzle pieces. Because as you said, we
Hmm.
all come with different traumas, with different histories, with different lives. But the trajectory and the journey to get to a place of peace, healing, connection, it's the same. And that is the beautiful journey that we get to share together. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. It's such a joy to be here and having the conversation.
Mm, thank you. Till next time, everyone.